What's going on, Jeromes? So the Minnesota Vikings definitely have need at cornerback, and one of them on the roster, which was highly drafted a couple of years ago, Andrew Booth Jr., is sort of nowhere to be found. Now, before we get into this, I have to point out, we are famous, es muy infamoso, for making up stupid nicknames all the time. What's going on, Jeromes? Your Minnesota Vikings need some people to step up at the cornerback position, and one of the guys who was highly drafted a couple years ago, Andrew Booth Jr., sort of nowhere to be seen. Now, before we get started, we need to point out that we are famous, es muy infamoso, for making up stupid nicknames all the time, but how did we miss the opportunity to call him the toll booth? You want it? Instead of roads closed, hey, 75 cents. Come down this road. I don't know, man. I don't know. But either way, things certainly have not worked out for Andrew Booth Jr., and it kind of stinks because coming out of Clemson, he was a bad dude. He had injury issues at Clemson, but flashes of a high-end first-round pick were there. The Vikings traded up to go get him, number 42 overall in 2022. He was Kwesi's second draft pick, which, I don't know, man. So Kwesi had a bunch of trades his first draft, and his first three picks were Seen, Booth, and Ed Ingram. Now, hopefully Ed Ingram can turn it around, but yeah. And so far throughout his career, Booth hasn't been great when given opportunity. 23 games, 2 starts, 256 defensive snaps, 161 on special teams, 20 tackles, one pass broken up, 17, 182, and 0 allowed on 23 targets, and a 96.6 quarterback rating when thrown at. And overall, he just hasn't been impressive. And over the last couple seasons, the Vikings have had needs at cornerback, but you've seen them go in different directions. Fellow 2022 draft class alumni, fourth-round pick Caleb Evans has played above him for the last 3 years, and it's just hasn't worked out, man. And Booth, coming into this camp, everyone sort of knew that even though he's on his 4-year rookie deal, year 3 was the Alamo. It was Midway. It was Thermopylae for him. He needed to get something done or else it wasn't going to work out. And it looks like it's not working out. So, yeah, we're about midway through training camp. We haven't reached preseason yet, but the traction that Booth has needed certainly hasn't been there. This is from Alec Lewis, The Athletic, yesterday. Booth is healthy, but he has rarely played. Now, that's the thing about Booth too. His first couple years has been dotted by just injuries, right? And that has been a reason why he hasn't gotten on the field, but also just hasn't gotten on the field. And Flores last year, he talked about it. He wants consistency. He wants to trust him, but it just hasn't panned out. Duke Shelley, Jay Ward, and Dwight McLaughlin have taken most of the snaps with the number 2 defense at cornerback. A.J. Green III, the other one, and 2023 undrafted cornerback Jalen Williams have earned as many, if not more, reps than Booth. Similar to Seen, the Vikings would be dinged about $1.7 million by cutting him, but that's a minor tax to hang on to someone like Murphy or McLaughlin. Gabriel Murphy, UDFA out of UCLA, Dwight McLaughlin, UDFA out of Arkansas, who could become major contributors. Because at a certain point, you have to just be okay, we're not going to throw good money after bad anymore. It is what it is. Admit our mistakes and move on. Now, when you're a highly drafted player, either first or second round, you're going to get more chances than a day 3 guy or an undrafted guy. Just sort of is what it is. Where the GM, it's embarrassing when a first or second round pick doesn't even play out their entire rookie deal, and especially after just 2 years giving up. It stinks, but also respect Kwesi for admitting his mistake and moving on and hang on to a clearly superior player. Now, like Alec alluded to, if the Vikings do cut ties with Booth, because I don't think that he has any trade value, and also if a trade does work out, I think the Vikings would be stuck with the bulk of his contract anyway as part of the deal. But he does have a $1.46 million base salary now. $940K of that is guaranteed, but it would offset if he signed somewhere else, whether regular 53-man roster or practice squad. The Vikings would have $1.754 million dead, with $511,000 in cap savings this year. Next year they would have $805,000 dead. But if he was signed somewhere else and it did offset against the 940, they would recoup some of that against the 2025 cap. Either way, doesn't cost him a ton either way. And like I said, I don't think that he has any trade value at this point, but yeah, it just sort of is what it is. And I don't think that you would go out of your way to keep him on the 53 just because you want to save a couple pennies. I mean, the Vikings have plenty of cap this year. They have tons of cap next year. And looking at the cornerback depth, so color coding, blue is first team, yellow is second teamers who have gotten some first team reps. So it's a pretty clear line of demarcation between the top 6 and everyone else. So Murph, Shaq when he gets back, and Caleb Evans have worked with the first team. Evans has certainly been up or down, and he was benched several times last season despite being a starter. But obviously he has a lot more to bring to the table than Booth Jr. at this point. Then you got the veteran Fabian Moreau. Just walked in off the street, started taking first-team reps above Andrew Booth Jr. and company. Dwight McLaughlin, the UDFA, is looking very impressive. Duke Shelley, of course, is a folk hero. He's getting some work in there as well. And like Alec mentioned, like Jalen Williams, last year's UDFA out of Indiana. A.J. Green III, also getting work ahead of Booth with the 3. So basically, you really could only say that Booth is maybe ahead of Jacoby Francis, another camp body that they brought in after Blackman got injured. So I don't see a way for Booth to make the 53. Maybe they bring him back on the practice squad, but even then, like say you keep 5 or 6 corners on the roster. Well, say you keep 5. Murphy, Griffin, Evans, McLaughlin, and either Moreau or Shelley on the 53. On the practice squad, ideally you want to keep Shelley, maybe Jalen Williams, maybe A.J. Green. I just don't see Booth as your first option for the practice squad either. Plus, if you brought him back to the practice squad, that would prohibit you potentially getting some offset if he signed somewhere else. So I think that it might be done. I think that it might be a wrap. And frankly, if the Vikings are going to part ways with Booth, they may even be doing him a solid if they cut him now early and had him give him an opportunity to catch on somewhere else and get a couple practices, maybe even a preseason game or 2 under his belt with his new team. And then the Vikings could potentially get that offset on his contract with the new team. But either way, it does stink. Of course, the 2022 draft, to a degree, rightfully so, gets thrown back in Kwesi's face a lot. I think that Kwesi's come a long way since that first draft, but it's been rough. It's been rough, man. And like we said, the toll booth, they're unattended. Hey, so I was driving through Illinois during the Rona years, and they didn't have the toll booth attendance, and then they're just like, hey, we'll just send you a bill. And then they sent me a bill, and it was like 4 times more than I drove. But then I just paid it because, I don't know, don't want to fight Illinois. Anyways, your thoughts are thoughts. Andrew Booth Jr., probably not going to make this team. Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skol, production value.